You're listening to What's Your Heart Problem podcast, the show that brings you healthy advice and perspectives on your heart relationships with your host, Dr. Holder. She has 20 plus years in the field of helping others as a dedicated therapist. She is a coach, speaker, a loving mother, and wife. Dr. Holder is here to help you get to the heart of the matter. Now, without any further ado, please welcome your host, Dr. Holder.
Hello. This is your host, Dr. Holder, for What's Your Heart Problem podcast. And it's a podcast where we talk about self-care, we talk about self-stuff, we talk about basically relationships with you, yourself, others. We just do it all about what is healthy, what's toxic, what you need to improve, what you need to leave. But the main thing here is relationships and how that impacts you in your personal life. Today's episode, we're going to get into talking about boundaries and how important boundaries are in your life. I wanted to give a quick note to the meaning of what boundaries are. And I have this book I use and I talk and I let my clients and or others know about. This book is called Boundaries: When to Say Yes, When to Say No, to Take Control of Your Life. And the authors are Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And in the book, it talks about the definition of boundaries, and I'll read it to you. It says, boundaries are personal property lines that define who you are and who you are not and influence all areas of your life. So there's various boundaries, but we can categorize those boundaries. There's physical boundaries, there's mental boundaries, there's financial boundaries, there's boundaries with people, there's boundaries with, again, relationships, boundaries with yourself. So in going forward with boundaries, I wanted to talk about boundaries as it relates to the relationships in your life. So today is really about understanding how, boundaries help you as opposed to negate you or make it where they don't work for you, because they do. So today I wanted to get into boundaries for or with yourself. What boundaries do you have with yourself that you need to change or adjust so that you're feeling good in your own skin? I think last episode I got into speaking about, are you kind to yourself? Are you good to yourself? All those things. And part of having boundaries with yourself is kind of managing your own life. So for example, a boundary, it could be I have to get up for work to get there for 9. If I'm not up to get to work for 9, I might get fired. So the boundary for you would be I am not gonna party till 1:00 in the morning, because I know that I'm gonna feel so sleep deprived I might miss my alarm and or miss getting to work on time. That's a minor one, and a lot of people don't even do that, but there are people that still do that. Hey, depending on where you work, how you work, your hours, all of that. But that would be considered a boundary where you're not trying to self-sabotage your success because you want to do your own thing. So another thing with boundaries is that it helps you to, like I said, manage your life and your priorities, but it helps you to understand like where it is that you want to go, where you want to flow to, especially if you're managing yourself, your time management, all of that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is boundaries with your partner. For those that are in relationships, it's very important that you know you before you get into a relationship. Because if you don't know you, then you'll feel lost in the relationship. There's this movie. I don't know if you guys ever heard or saw it. It's called Runaway Bride. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. Gere, hopefully I said his name right. But they are in this movie called Runaway Bride where she gets, Julia Roberts is the actress. And oh, spoiler alert, if you didn't see it, I'm about to tell you some things about it. So if you haven't seen it, you can stop now. But basically, she runs away. So the wedding starts, and in the movie, she starts walking down the aisle, and she gets to like midway or close enough to her intended groom, and then she turns around and she runs away. And so the town where she lives in has her capped as like the runaway bride, and there's jokes on it and all of that that she doesn't appreciate, but that's what it is. And then the story continues, and Richard Gere comes along, and he kind of forces her see herself, to not just go along with who she's with, just so that she can, be married. And obviously, she wasn't just getting married. She wasn't comfortable with not with her intended grooms not knowing her, and that's why she would run away. And so, what's important in that movie, basically, I'm just making a point, is that if you're not comfortable in your own skin, if you're not comfortable with who you are, you shouldn't be getting married. You shouldn't be putting yourself in a situation where the other person is speaking for you or around you, or pretty much you feeling lost in the relationship, like I said before. You want to be in a position of, I know what I want, I know what I like, I don't like this, I want that, and you want to put yourself in a position where the other person understands who you are as a person, and it's not confusing for them, or their assumptions are you're this person and you're not. And so when it comes to relationships, ensure that you just know you before getting into anything serious. Now, when it comes to boundaries, the reason I made that point was because what ends up happening is, if you don't know yourself, like I said, you feel lost. If you do know yourself, you also would be able to know what boundaries you can have for yourself. So I just stated what I like, what I don't like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. And there are things that this is a boundary for me. Hey, don't cross this line because I will feel this way if you do. And so you can clearly talk to your partner or tell your partner how you feel about things, about what upsets you, what makes you angry, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, all those things. And hey, just watch that. So, for example, I know that there are women that cannot deal with a man that raises his voice because of maybe past trauma they've been through and all of that. So it's like, hey, honey, when we're in conflict, if you raise your voice, I will shut down and I will not hear anything you're saying. So when we're in conflict, I need you to slow down, calm down, or if we need to come back to a later time to speak about this conflict, then let's do that. But if you spiral out, get angry, and yell, scream, I'm not going to hear you. And so it's super important that we are very clear with what works for us in a relationship with our partner. It only helps to improve and keep the relationship healthy when that happens. Another relationship that I wanted to speak on is your relationship with your family. Um, I think I was reading something or I was looking at something, and they were talking about how your family knows what your family knows what buttons to push because they pretty much grew up with you, and they kind of know what doesn't work for you. And for fun, they poke your buttons. But what I'll say with that is, as you get older and you guys all turn adults, and you're more you are more in an adult relationship with your parents or adult relationship with your siblings, you want to learn to listen to what they're saying to you. You want to hear them and hear their feelings and their emotions so that conflict is less between the two of you. 9 out of 10 times when there's conflicts within family dynamics, it's because someone doesn't feel heard, someone doesn't feel validated, and they don't know how to say it to the sibling or to the parent or to the uncle or aunt, and so there's resentment, there's bitterness, there's that starts to grow. And so when you create a boundary, you're you're able to inform that family member, that sibling, that parent that, hey, when you do this, this upsets me, so I need you to stop. I think my other episode, I was talking a little bit about, just vaguely about, hey, ensure that you're kind of like speaking your truth about like what impacts you in a negative way, so that yes, I was saying about your partner, right? If your partner impacts you in a negative way, let them know, so that they're aware of it. That's a boundary. But with family, in addition to with family, that's another thing. Letting them know what's real with you, what works for you, and for the relationship to be healthy and growing, they will work with you. They will say, God, I didn't realize it, thanks for letting me know, and you keep it moving. There are other family members that ego, pride, not trying to be humble, not trying to even care about the relationship, wouldn't care, right? Wouldn't care. And with those individuals, I would say you can love them from a distance if you can, because you can't change someone's mindset. You can't force anyone to do what you want. You can only change you and deal with you. And so understand that there's differences. You can have boundaries, but not everyone's going to respect them. And those that don't, you just, keep your distance a bit, because if you continually try to force boundaries on people that are not, just don't care to do them, what's going to end up happening is you start getting resentment and even more bitterness about you towards the individual and others around you. So really watch that and ensure that you are putting boundaries in place that work for you in your relationships. And then relationship with friends. I mean, and this goes for relationship with friends, relationship with co-workers, bosses. Well, with the employment side, I would say that if your boss is asking you to do projects consistently, whereby it's past 5, it's going up to 6, 7, 8 o'clock, or that kind of thing, then you want to have a conversation with them and let them know that, once in a while is fine, but I can't continue to do this because the clock stops at this time. And now not everyone can do that, obviously, because some people are in probationary periods and you got to do what you got to do. Some people are, I don't want to mess with my boss because he or she is not very understanding, so they have to just deal with it. And to that, I would say maybe it's to look into finding another place of employment whereby you're respected for your boundaries and they respect their own boundaries, because the boundary would work typically is 9 to 5 for most jobs, and so the boss should respect what the boundary they put into place, their time boundary. And so if they're expecting employees to work past that, then they should pay the employees to work those hours after. And if they're not, then that's straight ridiculous. And you should, you should ensure that you are letting them know, hey, this does not work for me. But like I stated earlier, you can say your boundary. The person doesn't have to respect it, but you respect yourself enough to be like, all right, this isn't working for me, so I'm gonna have to distance myself, change, adjust, do something that will work within the boundaries that make me comfortable. So that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about in regards to boundaries and just ensuring that you are taking care of yourself, because that's also part of self-care. When you place boundaries around you, and you're able to clearly define what your feelings are, how you're feeling, why you did what you did, why this doesn't work for you, why is it that you got upset, because you're checking in regularly. This is also part of the, I think it was the last episode I talked about with the relationship with yourself, where, you have to understand that boundaries help you. Boundaries help you to manage your life better. Boundaries help you to understand situations a bit better. Boundaries just help you to prioritize, like I stated earlier. And so you want to ensure that you're consistently going along with what works for you, right? Again, maybe you would have to adapt certain things. Sometimes maybe you would have to, be aware of certain things more. So maybe you have to adjust your boundaries sometimes, depending on the situation. But for the most part, if something is really making you uncomfortable, it's really making you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, you have to look at that for yourself. You are only one person, it's only one you. And if you're able to be comfortable within your own skin to place boundaries around you, consider that as part of your self-care message to the world, so that when people know to come around you, they'll know, oh, she doesn't like that, oh, I know she doesn't like that, or he or she doesn't like that. And I'm telling you, boundaries equal peace. Boundaries equal courage. Boundaries equal just a whole lot of drama being left to the side where it doesn't bother you at all. Because people that go well and work well within their boundaries, they don't have drama. They don't have a lot of drama in their lives. Honestly, they don't have drama in their lives like that. Their yes means yes, their no's mean no's. If there's a maybe, you'll get a definite answer by the end of the week or the end of the day. Like, they're very, very secure within themselves. And even if they do have insecurities here and there, their boundaries cover them. Their boundaries, if they keep to it, help them to manage better and help them to manage others in their lives better. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit, like I stated, about boundaries and how important it is for the relationship with yourself and the relationship with others that you have with others. Um, a quick story. This also works with your children as well. And when you have good boundaries for yourself and how you manage things, you remember if you have children, they're watching. I have a toddler. He's hilarious, and oh my goodness, he knows, or he tries to um, get his own way. He's a toddler. That's what they do, and he tries to get his own way. And what ends up happening is I have to almost teach him how you need to ask for that. You don't just grab that. You need to do this. So you're teaching your little people as well boundaries and how to handle things, because they don't know. They're just going to do what they're going to do. They're kids. They're little babies. They're growing. So it's on you as a parent as well to handle boundaries and to do that and manage boundaries within yourself. So your person, your little your kids, your toddler, your children follow you and they see you doing your boundaries and you're teaching them how to do boundaries. So it makes it an easier transition in conversation and activities and different things that happen with you and your child going forward. So I just wanted to just talk a little bit about that, how important boundaries are, and how it's key in living a peaceful life, in whatever you do, whether you're working right now, listening to this podcast, you're hanging with your family, friends, relationship, whatever is going on for you at this moment. Just remember that, and I said it the last time, like, you matter. And because you matter and because you are important, your boundaries are important as well. And never let anyone tell you or make you feel like they're not. Because they're part of you. Boundaries I'm speaking of, they're part of you. And it's important that you keep going and keep managing yourself and prioritizing yourself in a way where it's balanced. And boundaries, they help with that. So this is Dr. Holder at What's Your Heart Problem podcast. Again, you guys can send me questions, information, anything you want to talk about. Let me know if there's topics you want me to touch on in this podcast. But for the most part, my focus here really is on relationships and, just am I improving? Am I leaving these relationships? Am I getting better within myself? Am I focusing on, what's good for me? So that I can, be good for others. So again, this is Dr. Holder, and you have a great day.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of What's Your Heart Problem podcast. If you're enjoying the show or found value in what you've heard today, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again next time in the next episode of What's Your Heart Problem podcast. See you then.